Same words, two different worlds, right? You see this on screen there. Dad's trying to get us food. Every picture has two sides. The family on the boat, that's love. Dad's trying to get some food. The family in the water, that's loss. Dad's trying to get some food and we lost him. Right? I don't know about you guys, but this image really hit me hard. And in a lot of ways, it's a perfect reminder that every story has two sides to it. And so does every business decision that we make. What we see from our seat on the boat looks completely different to the people seeing it from a different perspective, like below the surface, for example. So today I want to talk to you about why empathy and perspective are not just soft skills. In fact, these are skills that we need to master as small business owners. These are success skills. Because if you want to lead well, you want to sell well, you want to build something that you're proud of that's going to last, you have to learn to see through both lenses. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. If you're ready to do this, let's dive in.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling sad, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. The power is strong, the vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right, you guys. Well, hello and welcome into Small Business Saturdays. If you haven't met me before, my name's Montgomery, and I am the author of this book, The Fundamentals of Business Success. And I've been fortunate enough to spend nearly 30 years helping and supporting small business owners and really understanding now, finally, later on in my life, that it's about building something that we love, not just another job that drains us. So this show is where I take lessons from the book and my experiences and try to bring them to life in real time here for you guys through the different stories, through the things that I run across in my day-to-day business travels, strategies that have worked, strategies that have failed, right? And really, honestly, reflection, right? All of us having some honest reflection, in fact, myself included. Now, if you are new around here, every episode follows the rhythm and mirrors what's happening inside of the book, The Fundamentals of Business Success. And so we always start with plant. This is where we talk about kind of the mindset, getting ourselves in that planting, get those seeds in the ground, how you show up, what beliefs are shaping your business. Then we flip to the prepare part of the cycle. And this is all about the strategy and structure, making sure that we have a good system or process for where the actions that we're going to take. And then finally, the pollinate section. And this is where you turn what we've learned with the mindset that we've got, and we turn it into action, movement, momentum, and measurable results. And as I kind of mentioned in the opening there, perspective is actually probably one of the most powerful. And in a lot of cases, right, I see people, these business owners with their blinders on, and they have no other perspective, right? So I believe it's a very underrated tool as well. So as we dive into our conversation here today, I do want to be transparent here. This is another recorded session. We're in the middle of volleyball season, so a lot of my weekends are going to be spent in a volleyball gym. But like every episode, even if it's recorded, I love the interaction, right? Let's get in the comments. If you're commenting, I'm coming back in and I'm commenting back. We're exchanging ideas. But that takes you being a proactive learner where you want to comment, you want to bring your own perspective to this, you want to share, let's go deeper, right? And so please comment, please make sure that you're sharing this with your friends so they can become better business owners as well. And a rising tide does lift all boats. So let's dive in. Let's dive into this mindset, the plant section, right? And I think we look around at what we think are some of the best entrepreneurs out there and we go, man, they're really good at strategy. They've got that strategy dialed in. But the reality is, it's not about the strategy. They're really great at seeing. They're great at seeing all the sides, because when we see all the perspectives, strategy becomes easier, right? So they're seeing beyond their own assumptions. They notice what other people are missing. They pause, and this is something that I've been working on even more, is we pause before we react. And so I think in a lot of ways, it's really easy to believe that, kind of leadership, running our business means that I've got to have all the answers all the time. But real leaders, real people that are building businesses that they love, actually don't have all the answers. They just have better questions. They have more questions, right? So questions like, how does this decision look from somebody else's perspective? What might my customers be hearing, right? I know what I'm trying to say, but what might my customers be hearing that gets in the way of the message I'm trying to share, right? What blind spots might I have here? And I think if we can start training ourselves to be more question oriented than trying to have all the answers all the time, and we start to ask those questions consistently, then we get a new perspective and we start running our business from this place of empathy instead of ego, right? This is ego. It's all about me. This is empathy. I'm seeing all the perspectives. I want to understand more. I want to ask more questions. And empathy doesn't mean letting everyone have their way, right? It doesn't mean that we become a doormat. It means that we start with that awareness. So I want to make sure that I capture other people's perspectives. It doesn't mean I have to give in to everybody else's perspectives. But honestly, if we understand other people's perspectives, then we can work together more collaborative and find the middle ground, right? You can still make tough calls and you can still care deeply about how they land, and you can still drive your business in your way, right? Like understanding that, I think, is what truly becomes the balance and the mindset that we need. For anybody trying to build a business that you love, your business has to be heart-centered. It has to come from this place of empathy. So that's the first part here, right? I want to set the table. That's the mindset. We're coming from empathy, not as a place of a doormat or being walked on or saying yes to everyone all the time, right? It's completely different. Just because I have other people's perspective doesn't mean I can't make my own decisions, right? But without the information, I actually have less confidence in the decisions that I'm making. So start asking those questions that we talked about. Let me give them to you one more time in case I went too quickly there. So pause the video, get your pen and paper, write these things down. All right, here we go. How does this decision or whatever it is that I'm doing, how does this look from their side? My customers, the vendors that I work with, the partners that I have, other stakeholders, whatever, whoever is on the other side of that decision or what you're trying to get across, right? And then the second question is, what might my team or my customers, or again, whoever it is that you're trying to share something with, that you have this vision that you want to get across, what might they be hearing that maybe I'm not actually saying, even though I think I am, right? So that's the second question. Third question is, what blind spots might I have here, right? And those blind spots are coming from our assumptions. We've made assumptions. We're telling ourselves a story. I was having a conversation with one of our Masters of Success members just the other day, and she made a statement, and it sounded very convincing. It sounded like, yeah, it makes sense, right? That could be the truth. But I just said, is that a story that you're telling yourself? Right? I wasn't making any assumptions whether it was or was not, but I wanted her to look and see, do I have a blind spot there, right? It's like when we're driving, right? We look in the mirror, cool, things look good. But I don't know about you guys. When I'm driving, I look in the mirror as a first line of defense. But then I've got this other tool right here, this neck here, and I go, oh, right? Okay, good. Nothing in my blind spot. But as business owners, we have to take time to think about that, right? What blind spot might I have? So that's the mindset that we're going to work from for the rest of this conversation here and go from there. Again, if you guys are listening in, whether it's live when this is playing at noon, or you're catching the replay because you got the email or you saw it somewhere else, right? Wherever that is, comment right now. What does empathy mean to you, right? How does that land for you personally when you think of the word empathy? All right, curious. Let's dig into that, right? I know for me it's changed over time, and so I'm curious other people's perspective. I want to see where this is landing for you. All right. So now we get into the second part of the cycle here, and this is the prepare, the strategy, the planning, whatever you want to call it. And I want to start thinking about how this could potentially play out in the real world for you, the small business owners, right? Because as a small business owner, I think a big part of our quote unquote responsibility, or what we are doing each and every day, is we are making choices. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges of being a small business owner is we're now responsible for those choices, where when you have a job, somebody tells you what to do. Somebody else is making a decision, right? And even if you're at the top, a leader in a job, there's still somebody else's vision that those choices come from. You have that guardrail. But when we're the business owner, now we're responsible for all the decisions. We're making choices each and every day, right? How are we going to price this? How are we going to communicate this? What are we going to post on social media? How will we manage change, right? Something changes in our product structure or a vendor relationship or whatever, right? We've got so many different choices that we're making. And when we start thinking about those choices, and here's where it could get scary if you let yourself go too far, is think about the ripple effect of those choices, right? And so I only share that not to scare you. I share that to say it's really important for us to see the perspectives, right? We're not going to see every perspective. We're not going to get everything right. And so we're going to take small incremental steps, but we have to be open to looking at these decisions that we're making from other vantage points, right? So everyone's going to look a little bit different depending on where you're sitting in this whole process. So let me give you, I've got 3 examples I want to share with you, right? So the first example would be, okay, you're making a decision about cutting some costs, that cost savings decision. Maybe it's time to really tighten your budget or cut a service to improve your efficiency. And from your review, that's progress, right? But maybe for people that work with you, it might feel like instability. Maybe for your customers, it might feel like decline. So from that space, right? A lot of times we make these cost-cutting decisions just because we think that's the right decision, but we don't think about how that's going to affect our customers, right? Oh, well, I'm saving a few nickels on this thing and it'll make my pricing be a little bit more competitive. And your customers are going, I'm fine with whatever price you need to charge me. I show up because you have the best quality or it's consistent all the time, right? When I'm doing business with somebody, I can tell the cost cutters because there's no consistency. It's going to be different from time to time to time, right? And so empathy means taking the time to really dig into why and start involving the people that might have different seats at the table and explain to them why you are thinking about this decision, but then get their perspective on the how or what that decision might mean for them at their seat in the table or their position on the boat, if we go back to the image from the beginning. So that's the first one. The next one is, maybe it's time to make a big pivot. Maybe it's time to shift directions. Again, I know people are doing this all the time. I did this not too terribly long ago. Again, was talking to another mastermind member, and she's going through some potential big shifts right now. Maybe it's new markets, maybe it's new tools, maybe it's different things like that. But you might go, yeah, this is innovation, right? But to somebody else that's maybe invested in the old system, it feels a little bit more like anxiety. And so empathy tells us, hey, bring them along, involve them in the conversation, ask how this change is going to impact them and what support that they need to be able to adapt to this change, right? So in my case, right, when it was time to shut down the membership program, even though in my heart of hearts, I knew for a very long time that was the right thing for me to do, I did not go knee jerk, let's just do it and they'll figure it out. I had lots of conversations. The people that were still invested in that program, I kept asking, how can we get this information that you're investing in? How can we make this transformative for you? What's it going to take to actually put this stuff into action? Right. And then I explained the why behind it, and I got their perspective. And, some of them were just really concerned that they'd, invested in all this great information and they didn't have time to put it into action. And I said, well, no problem. It's yours, right? Like, you invested in it. So even though I shut down the membership program, the people that were still members when I shut it down, they still have access to it today. And that was several years ago now. They still have access to it today. And they know if they needed help, they can still reach out to me today. Right. So it's really, I wanted to make sure that I understood everybody's perspective and then move forward. Right. I didn't, there were people like, oh, I can't believe you're going to do this. And I said, I want your perspective, but I'm not asking for your opinion. Right. So I didn't obviously say it like that, but the reality is we want perspective. We're not looking for opinions. All right. So, and then the last example I can share for you here as we kind of start thinking about the strategy for bringing more empathy into our decision-making is our marketing message. We talked about this a little bit already, where what are your customers hearing? Right? You might think, and I've done this lots and lots of times, right? In my brain, totally makes sense. Bump, 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 bump. There you go. Here's point A, here's point B, here's point C. If you follow these steps, life's going to be good, right? But when I think it's clear, doesn't necessarily mean the people on the other end of it think it's going to be clear. So maybe it's just a tone, right? Like, not everybody gets my dry sense of humor, right? And so I have to understand that. I have to change my message a little bit. I have to look at the perspectives, or maybe it's just timing, right? Like, sometimes there have been situations where people have put marketing out in the world, and in the grand scheme of things, you go, was that a little bit off as far as the timing of things that are going on in the world right now? Right. And all that happened there was they just missed it, right? They didn't think about the people that might be receiving this. And it really just, at the end of the day, could be how you frame it, right? Like, I spent a lot of time trying to design my marketing message so people would really, it would resonate with them. What I realized was I needed to figure out what it was that I'm good at, that I'm trying to share with the world, and then just keep saying that over and over again, right? So you guys probably hear it in me now, where I just want you to fall in love with your business. And I frame that in different ways because it's going to land differently to different people at different times, right? And I also know that I might have somebody that I think is an ideal customer, and I'm going, okay, cool, I'm going to share this with them. Boom, it's going to be great. And they either don't get it, they're not ready for it, or whatever. Right? In the past, I would be upset. I'd go, man, I'm not doing well. Like, I didn't understand them well enough. Sometimes it's just timing, right? And so that's the other side of it. Empathy is really about slowing down enough to just test your message. Be okay to get rejected. Be okay getting it wrong. And when you start testing it and you start slowing down and you start really looking for the feedback, right? Because all feedback doesn't come in the form of somebody saying, hey, I didn't like this, or this didn't resonate with me. Sometimes feedback comes in the form of nobody signs up, or nobody buys the product, or you get the blank look, this blank stare, right? Like, oh, they just didn't understand. Right? And then, right, if you slow down long enough, then you can start asking those questions. And so all of these are just quick, simple human examples. But I think you can see in each and every one of them how, as a business leader, as a business owner, without perspective, our decisions can create confusion, while business ownership with empathy really starts building connections, starts building more relationships. And then when the timing's right, things are going to work out, right? So that's the strategy. That's the prepare phase. let's now really focus the rest of our time here together on the action phase, the pollinate phase from the book here. Is all about the action that we take. So how do we turn this into practice? And I used to think this. I used to think that, well, I just not very empathetic, right? You look at my Clifton Strengths Finder, empathy is actually pretty low. I've always struggled with that. I sometimes really forget that the other people's perspective. And so I was like, I'm just not born with it, right? And it's not. It doesn't work that way. You're not born with it or not. It is actually a buildable skill. Now, it's not a strength of mine, and it's never going to be a strength of mine. But when I'm intentional with it, I can build that skill. And so I'm going to give you 5 different ways that you can develop the habit of empathy, finding the perspective, and just being really intentional with this whole idea. So throughout this too, I want to, in fact, we'll just put it back up so it really resonates for us here. That picture, right? Every picture has 2 sides. I borrowed this off of a LinkedIn post that I saw that did actually like drill me directly here in the chest, right near the heart there, right? So with that, right, the first thing that we can do is just pause before we throw the hook in, right? Before you make that decision, stop and ask, who's on the other side of this? And maybe even go so far, especially as we're practicing this, to write down everyone that could be affected and start thinking about it from their perspective. Imagine how it feels for them from their seat, from their place, right? Whether they're in the boat or under the boat or somewhere else, different table, whatever analogy you want to use there. But I think really pausing, and it doesn't have to be a long pause, a 30-second pause can really prevent a ton of miscommunication and a ton of confusion. So that's the first thing. Just pause before you make that decision. And honestly, that's really what the cycle is all about. The pause is the pollinate and the prepare, right? Make sure I'm coming at this from the right mindset. Am I being empathetic? It's not all ego. Am I coming at it with a good strategy? And do I know who all the people are that are involved in this decision? And then you can take action. So that's that pause. Secondly, here is to be intentional about going out and finding the unseen voices. Okay? A lot of times, not a lot of times, in fact, most of the successful business owners that I know, you can look at them and go, oh, they're perspective collectors, right? They're the ones that are showing up and having the conversations. They're coming to the masterminds. They're engaging in conversations that are deeper than just, how do I do this thing, right? They're looking for perspective. I had an opportunity to talk, and when you were listening to this, it would have been yesterday, to an amazing business owner in the printing space on our 2 Regular Guys podcast, right? And Dan's somebody that's extremely successful, but yet Dan could probably teach anybody how to run a super successful business. He's already in about 5 years, I think it was, taken a business that was just around $1 million a year and probably going to do 13, maybe a little bit more $1 million this year in business. But yet every time I've had a conversation with him, and I'm somebody that asks a lot of questions, he's probably asked me more questions than I've asked him, right? He's a perspective collector. And so those types of leaders, those types of business owners, they want to talk to people who see things differently, right? Like, I know we get in our comfort zone and we want to surround ourselves with all the people that think just like us because it's more comfortable. But get out there once a month, for example, reach out to a person and connect to them that might not think exactly like you. And it, could be maybe a potential customer, but you're not sure, or maybe it's a somebody that you work with, or a supplier, or whatever the case may be. Wherever you're going to find that, I mean, heck, go to your local community organization event or something along that, and just ask them the simple question: what's one thing you think I might not see from my perspective? Right? Obviously, you're not going to just lead with that, right? You want to get to know them a little bit, because that's kind of a deeper question. They might not even know where you're sitting. But once you kind of can have that common ground where they know a little bit about you, what's one thing you think I might not be seeing? What's a perspective that I'm missing, right? and then just listen. Don't try to fix if they're disagreeing with your perspective. Don't try to defend your position. Just listen. And this is how we get good feedback as well. We don't try to fix it. We don't try to fight it. We just listen. All right. So that's number 2. Number 3, create an empathy huddle, right? Get the people around you, solopreneur or not, there's people in your success team, and have a check-in. If that's weekly, great, whatever could be monthly, but just, again, be really open. What am I missing? Who might see this differently? What perspectives do I need to gather? And throughout this intentionality, you're really creating that space for an honest conversation. And here's the bonus to the whole thing. You're not just collecting ideas, but you're also building trust with those people because they see you being vulnerable, right? They're probably going to ask you some of the same questions. And so your empathy huddle, right? Like, make it your mastermind. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe you've got an accountability partner, right? I would highly recommend a mastermind group, because I run them, right? So there's a little selfish need in there. But the reality is, out of everything that I've done throughout the course of my business career, the impact that I've seen through the power of mastermind for both myself personally and for the people I get to work with, talk about perspective collection. Wow. It's unbelievable, right? All right. So 4, really think about empathy in your marketing. Like, this is the one place for sure that intentionality is going to really bring a ton of return on investment in that intentionality of empathy. Because honestly, it's your unfair advantage. Most people, again, are trying to scream their message at the top of their lungs, pick me, pick me, pick me. Instead, you're going to focus on what your customers feel before, and then paint them a picture of what they could feel after working with you. And that's a way better and way more compelling marketing message, right? Most people are focused on, here's my offer. What's your call to action, right? And don't get me wrong. I love all those things. Those are all part and parcel. We need to be very clear on what our call to action is, but that's only after we've really put ourselves in our potential customer's shoes and try to really grasp what it is that they're feeling. Why would they choose you? And then also help them paint that picture so it's an easy transition to, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I'd like to feel, and through working with you, I'm going to feel that way. Right? And it does boil back down to this simple truth. What problem are you really trying to solve? What emotion are they craving? Maybe it's a relief from something. Maybe it's confidence. Maybe it's peace of mind. Maybe it's connection, right? There's all sorts of different emotions that people are after. We think it's the thing, but it's not. It's never the thing. I don't care how, even the commodity folks, right? There's still this level of emotion that's attached to it, right? Like, we go to our favorite gas station, and yes, we might hunt for something a little bit cheaper, but the convenience of it, it's called a convenience store, right? That's that emotion that we're trying to scratch, that itch that we're trying to scratch. Boom, I get it done. I'm not worried about it anymore. It's convenient. And so when you start speaking from that place of empathy, your customers are going to feel seen. And honestly, when people feel seen, that's when they make the investment. That's when they make the purchasing decision. And then the final piece of this puzzle, I think the thing that really rounds this whole idea out that you can really put to use immediately, is reflect with gratitude. I think when we gather perspective, again, a lot of times our natural instinct is to defend our perspective. It's to try to fix what's wrong in their perspective, or even try to fix what's wrong in our current perspective. But when we lead with gratitude, that really opens the opportunities for perspective to really get you where you want to go, right? So when something's frustrating you, right? Maybe it's a picky customer, or maybe you've got a person that works for you who's struggling, or maybe a vendor, quote unquote, did you wrong, right? If you took 10 seconds just to go, let me reflect with gratitude here and say, what might be happening in their world right now that, right? Like, I always think, I used to, the picky customers, the people that were I think in pop culture today, we call them Karens. I feel bad for all the actual Karens out there, because I know a lot of really nice Karens, but that idea, right? And I used to go, just was so frustrating. But the second I started really kind of reflecting with gratitude and going, man, I feel so sorry for them. They must be really struggling in their world right now to come at me that way, to attack that way, right? I just want to give them a hug, right? And even if you actually never know what's really going on in their world, that pause really just softens the way that you communicate, and your communication is going to be clearer. You're going to diffuse the situations faster. You're going to get people to go, man, they saw me. Next time I'm going to figure out how I can help them. I want them to feel that same feeling that I felt, because I felt their gratitude, right? And now I'm going to give them a perspective that might help them. I'm going to give them constructive feedback as opposed to yelling at you, right? So let me hit those 5 things real quick again. So if you want to pause right here so you can write this down, get your pen handy. Okay. Number 1 is pause. Just take a quick pause, and back to the analogy with the picture on the screen here. Pause before you cast your line. Number 2, seek the unseen voices, right? The fish below the water. What are they thinking, right? Create an empathy huddle. Bring a trusted group together, again, a mastermind together. That's 3. Number 4, really focus on empathy in your marketing. And number 5 is to reflect in gratitude. So as I kind of wrap this up here, I just want to remind you and remind myself that every decision we make has 2 sides. Every message we put out there could potentially have 2 meanings, right? A lot of times your marketing message could come across with several different meanings depending on how wide you're reaching. And every business owner has 2 choices. We can either react from our seat and our seat only with the blinders on, right? Or we can respond from understanding. And as I talked about at the beginning, to be very clear, empathy does not make you weaker, right? Just because we're willing to gather perspectives doesn't mean that you have to get walked on. It actually makes you wiser. You're going to make better decisions, and you're going to create more win-win situations. And then more people are going to seek you out, and you become stronger and you become more confident, right? It protects relationships. It builds your reputation. And ultimately, the byproduct is going to be the results that you're getting. We all think that we're after these results, but really we need to be after these things like empathy and building relationships and trust and reputation. And then results will become the byproduct of that, right? That's been a big thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately, is just understanding that a lot of times the things we think we're chasing are actually meant to be the byproducts of developing these other skills. And the truth is, the most profitable businesses are usually the most empathetic ones, because people stay where they feel understood, where they have that trust. So let me give you a challenge, right? I always want to give you some action steps that you can take this next week and put this stuff into practice, because the more we practice, the more we're going to retain that, and the more we're going to grow. Before every decision you make this week, use this picture as your kind of guide here. Am I only looking at it from the boat? The second thing is, talk to one person who could potentially see your business differently than you do. And then the third thing you can do this week is choose one message or one process or one policy and look at it from the other perspective. Right? So maybe that's a marketing message. Maybe that's one way you do things inside of your business, or maybe that's one customer-facing policy. And ask yourself, if I was on the receiving end of this, how might I take that differently than my intention? Right. And then here's the real trick. Again, I said that the perspective collectors are the ones that are actively involved. They're actively starting the conversations, not just waiting or not just lurking, not just taking the information in. And so I want you to share what you have discovered through this process of bringing more empathy into your day-to-day business, and share that over at the Facebook group, which you can find at osg.link/group. There it is. osg.link/group. And here's the bonus byproduct of the whole thing is that not only will this opportunity to share start our empathy muscle moving, but now as a group, a rising tide is going to lift all boats, because now we're going to see other people's perspective. And again, the more perspectives we're trying to collect, but that doesn't happen until you get out there and take action. All right. So I don't know if I can be more clear about that. Go take action. Go get in the group today, right now, and say, here's what I'm going to try this week. Come back, report back. Just be active in there. That's what it's for. And the more active you are, the better the information you're going to get is going to be, and the better the group will be as a whole, right? And so again, the rising tide lifts all boats. And then while you're in the group, make sure that you check out the 30-day gratitude challenge. Right? If you're struggling to find things that you're grateful for, then just post in there the smallest thing that you're grateful for based on that prompt, and then look at the other people that are commenting. Right? Like I'm not always caught up right away, but I always do get back in there. Same for Kylene, who's posting those things. Right? We need to get in there and get active. But that 30-day challenge is going on for the entire month of November, and again, this whole idea of gratitude expands perspective, just like we talked about. So there you go. There's another great thing that you can do. And on top of that 30-day gratitude challenge, I just announced a couple days ago a brand new program called the Fundamental Business Builder Accelerator. And it's where I'm going to be working with 13 heart-centered business owners to improve their foundation so that they can lead, grow, and love what they get to do each day. It's going to be a 12-week program. Go watch the video in the group to get more details. And I've already had people taking spots. I had people taking spots before I even announced it, just through some of the conversations I was having. And then once I announced it, I had more people. In fact, just today's Friday when I'm recording this, just today, which was only a day later, I had 3 people say, I'm in, I'm committed, let's do this. So as a reminder here, you guys, every story, every picture, every business has 2 sides to it. Right? And so I just want you guys to make sure that you're leading with both sides in mind, and you're going to have a business that you truly love. So let me give you a little quick, not really taste, right? You're going to have to go to the group over there at osg.link/group. But here's some of the graphics with some music, and then we will close out today's show. So thank you for joining us, and I will see you next week here on Small Business Saturdays.
With our success group. Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake.